Yeah, welcome back to the C program tutorial, and in this class we will be talking about the concept called as qualifiers. So you have to understand that qualifiers are applied for basic data types to change its sign or the size. So I'm writing the definition here. Definition is like this: a qualifier, right, is applied to basic basic data types to alter its size or sign. So this is how you have to understand, like, a qualifier is applied to basic data types to alter its size and its sign. Now we have to understand what is the meaning of the basic data types. So whenever we have discussed about the concept of basic data types, we have discussed and listed out the data types as basic data types are as follows. First one is character, second one is integer, third one is float, and fourth one is double. So on this basic data types only we will be having the impact of the qualifier. Now we will be talking about the types of qualifiers. Qualifiers are of three types. One will decide the size of the basic data type. The second one will decide the sign of the basic data type. And the third one will decide the type of the basic data type. Right? The first one is the size, the second one is the sign, and the third one is the type of the basic data types. Now we will be talking about each and every uh, qualifier in detail. So first one is size qualifier. So whenever we are talking about size qualifier, there are some important things that are to be kept in mind, and I will be listing out the important things. The first one is like this. This qualifier is used to alter this size. This is very simple and the basic thing we have repeated previously. Size of the primitive data type. This is the point number one you have to keep in mind. Now we'll be talking about the second one, C language. The second point in size qualifiers is C language. We are talking about C language, so we'll be talking about the size qualifiers in C language. So C language supports two size qualifiers, right? So in this, the first size qualifier is short, the second qualifier is long. The first qualifier is short, the second qualifier is long. Now we will be going into the third point, where you will be finding the exact difference of the usage of the size qualifiers. These are generally used in integer type. So now you have to understand, like, previously, before the introduction of this topic, you have only a basic data type called as int. But after the introduction of this topic, after getting an idea of this topic, int can be used in two ways. The first int is short int. The second int is long int. So we can use short int and we can use long int. And the fourth one, you have to keep in mind that the double type supports long qualifier. That means you can read it like long double. You can read it like long double. So now int has become short int and long int, and double has become long double. Now we have certain rules to be followed in order to understand the size qualifiers. So we will be talking about those rules in detail. Rules to be followed are like this. The first rule is size of the short integer that is short int should occupy at least 2 bytes at least 2 bytes 2 bytes and must be less than or equal to the size of the int. This is the point number 1 to be taken into consideration. Now we will be talking about the second point. The size of int should be at least 2 bytes. Should be at least 2 bytes. And must be greater than or equal to the size of short int. This is the point number 2 you have to keep in mind. The third one is like this. So the size of the long int should be at least 4 bytes and must be greater than or equal to the size of int. So keeping these 3 points in mind, so we have come to a conclusion like short int is always less than or equal to long int. So this is the point number 1 you have to understand. Based upon this, similarly we have one more equation to be formed here. Float is greater than or equal to double is less than or equal to long double. So this you have to keep in mind. Once we have seen this, we will be going into the second type of qualifiers called as sign qualifiers. So this is all about the size qualifiers. Now we will be talking about the next type of qualifiers called as sign qualifiers. Right. Sign qualifiers are like this. Sign qualifiers are like this. There are two types of sign qualifiers we do have. One is called as the signed qualifier. The second one is called as the unsigned qualifier. Unsigned qualifier. Right. So why we are using these sign qualifiers means these are used to specify the sign nature. The signed nature. That means these are used to check whether the given data type is in signed mode or is in unsigned mode. Signed nature. Right. This is the point number 1 to be understood. Now this is point number 1. Point number 2 is these type of qualifiers are applied on integers or characters. Now based upon this effect, the integers are classified into signed integers and unsigned integers. And characters are signed characters and unsigned characters. This is the point to be understood. Right. Now on a whole, once we have done with this, now I will be giving you a small table through which you will be easily understanding how this is been classified into. Here it is serial number, here it is data type, and it is qualifier. So this is the serial number 1, where character data type after applying the qualifier may change into signed character or unsigned character. The second one, integer. On applying the sign character and size character, on implementing the sign qualifier and size qualifier, the int data type can be divided into or classified into short int, long int, right, signed int and unsigned int. Right, this is the second point to be kept in mind. The third one is we are going with the basic data type called as float, and in our explanation in signed qualifiers and in size qualifiers we have not discussed about float, so there is no qualifier. There is no qualifier for the float. That means float is not further divided. And fourth one is a double, which can be classified into one type, that is called as long double. This is all about the size qualifiers and sign qualifiers. So we are talking about the fourth type of third type of qualifiers called as type qualifiers. Type qualifiers. Right. So these are basically classified into two types. One is called as constant. The second one is called as volatile. But I am not going to discuss about these two qualifiers. Why? Because this is the very rarest qualifier type which can be used in C programming. So whenever or if it is required only, I will be discussing about this type of third type of qualifiers called as type qualifiers. So this is all about today's class, and in the today's class we have spoken about three types of qualifiers. One qualifier will be fixing the size, the second qualifier will be fixing the sign, and the third qualifier will be fixing the type. So this is all about today's class. In the tomorrow's class we'll be talking more on the subject. Thank you.